Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Frustrated and fed up, Tasmanian organisations supporting victims of domestic violence are banding together in a bid to force change. More and more of our women and children are being turned away, unable to access urgent support.
Fed up at a support system that in itself is in crisis.
8 out of 10 women and children that go towards shelters are actually turned away due to the lack of capacity. And I don't think that's good enough.
6 Tasmanian women's shelters hoping that there's real strength in numbers.
6 voices working together as one makes it a much stronger representation. We are stronger together.
The new Alliance shelters are spread across the state, with 3 in northern Tasmania and 3 in the south.
So what we really want to do is be a voice. We want to change the system that supports the services, and we want to change policy. We want to change operating standards.
Just last month, one of the shelters turned away 148 women and children. That's a rate 6 times higher than the national average.
At the moment, our turnaway rates are so high, it's got worse and worse over the years, and we are really desperate that we're needing something more. We're needing more accommodation for these women and children.
Adding to the Alliance's frustration is the seeming inability to increase available accommodation. Hobart City Council's rejection of plans to build 38 social housing apartments here in Hobart, adding salt to an already painful wound.
And to see that that's actually been rejected is just, I can't explain how disappointing it is.
The Alliance calling for those in power to act quickly.
They're not actually statistics, these are lives. These are women and children in our community that at their most dire time are being turned away.
Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, the Premier has apologised after calls to a domestic violence helpline earlier this week went unanswered. 6 calls to the Family Violence Counselling and Support After Hours service received no response. Jeremy Rockcliffe says Monday night's outage was caused by unplanned leave.
It is our expectation that this does not happen again, and we apologise for any grief that has caused any person.
Calls were redirected to Tasmania Police or 1800 RESPECT. An automated service is being set up. Salmon Tasmania and the state government believe their efforts to improve water quality in Macquarie Harbour are working. EPA figures point to an increase in water oxygen levels, crucial for the endangered Maugean skate. But environmental groups are calling foul and say it's now time for the federal minister to step in.
The EPA issuing a pass mark for Macquarie Harbour's health.
Let's celebrate that a regional area that was under stress, employment-wise, has found an industry that is sustainable and is providing jobs.
The independent regulator confirming oxygen levels in the waterway are steadily improving. All 35 monitoring spots meeting current standards.
The harbour is the most tested and assessed and monitored waterway, if not in Tasmania, potentially Australia at the moment, are all within the bounds of the environmental licences for the harbour, so they're all on target.
Salmon Tasmania says it's positive news for the endangered Maugean skate, which solely lives in the harbour. Others say that data smells fishy.
What happened was a natural event occurred in Macquarie Harbour that wasn't predicted, where there was an influx of oxygenated water. Exactly 1 year after an Institute for Marine Studies report detailed the rapid decline of the skate, the Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek's being urged to come clean on the skate and the salmon industry.
UNESCO is already asking the government for an explanation about why the government hasn't acted to save the Maugean skate.
The federal government's currently considering advice from 2,500 submissions on salmon farming in the harbour, while it's pouring more than $2 million into protecting the skate, including through the captive breeding program. 18 baby skates and 50 eggs exist in that program at the moment, but a mature salmon industry is still looking for certainty. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's debt keeps rising, with the state on track to record its biggest ever budget deficit. The government defending its spending in state parliament as the opening week of sittings draws to a close.
3 quarters through the financial year and the state's even deeper into the red than expected.
Premier, the budget update yesterday showed you're on track for the worst budget deficit in Tasmanian history.
Treasury's latest quarterly update showing a $600 million hole, $100 million more than forecast for the full year. It's mostly thanks to demand on the health system.
If the honourable member would like to point to an area across those areas that we should have invested in, such as paramedics, then let us know.
As Labor continues to probe an $80 million payment to builders of the new Spirit ferries, helping keep them afloat.
The Finnish government had agreed to underwrite the future financial viability of RMC over and above the TT line contribution of €50 million.
They've been in financial trouble for years, and now it's Tasmanians that are bailing out a Finnish shipbuilder.
Tasmania was already headed for $6 billion worth of net debt. Add to that infrastructure blowouts and election promises, and it creates an almighty budget headache for Treasurer Michael Ferguson. The Greens turning the spotlight onto the government's youth justice policy, having spruiked a commitment to therapeutic services and police strike forces.
So what is your government's plan? Is it to divert young people away from the justice system or to charge and lock up more kids?
As a government that's tough on crime, we know that the Greens will always be weak on crime.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The state upper house seat of Montgomery will be up for grabs at next May's election, with Liberal Leonie Hiskett announcing she will not recontest the position. Currently the leader of the government in the Legislative Council, she's served as an MLC since 2013. Ms Hiskett says it has been an honour to serve the electorate, covering the Northwest, thanking the Liberal Party and Premier Jeremy Rockliff. Well, police are hunting a firebug responsible for torching a shed in Devonport overnight. Firefighters arriving at the abandoned property on North Fenton Street around 8 p.m. to find it engulfed in flames. Investigations this morning finding it had been deliberately lit. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. The fate of the AFL High Performance Centre in Clarence remains up in the air. A group of residents voting overwhelmingly against plans to build it in Rosny Park at a fiery public meeting last night.
Among a crowd of 400 gathering to discuss a controversial AFL High Performance Centre in Rosny Park, there was a clear majority.
Concerns about the proposed location of such a centre.
After hearing from stakeholders, including the Tasmanian Football Club, last night's public meeting passing 6 motions, including a call for more comprehensive consultation.
We'll consider all the feedback that we received last night, but also throughout this whole process.
2 MCG-sized ovals, administrative buildings and a centre of excellence would be built on an old golf course and potentially split across the nearby Charles Hand Park, now looking shaky after a flood of objections.
Very few, if any, objections to having a high performance centre or the AFL in the area, but simply the loss of this really important green space.
Clarence beat a rival bid from Kinborough Council to secure the project last year. The latter still remains a viable option.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that this is a $70 million investment proposed to be built here in the city of Clarence that will bring economic and social benefits like we have never seen before. From my perspective, it's an absolute no-brainer.
I really feel like it's coming in, taking the jewel of our city for, as far as we can see, very little value in return.
An elector poll could decide the project's fate, but would cost $200,000 and prove a setback. A delay like that faced by the Jack Jumpers High Performance Centre could put the entire AFL licence at risk.
Let's get on and deliver. I don't mind whether it's built in Clarence or Kingborough as long as we get it built on time and on budget.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
A panel of stewards convened to review harness race fixing allegations made against trainer Ben Yole has released an interim report. Of 15 races identified by Ray Murray, it is deemed there's sufficient evidence to investigate only one further. A final report is expected by the end of June. In the meantime, Yole and 3 associates have been banned by Tas Racing. The panel also recommended improvements to stewards' training and processes.
Jack Riewoldt returns to Clarence tomorrow night, an almost unnecessary boost after a run of convincing wins for the Roos, but it won't be the anticipated clash of the Giants under lights, former Lion Mitch Robinson pulling out for Lauderdale after flying home. Having won their last 2 games by more than 100 points, the Roos are already bounding up the TSL ladder. Add Clarence graduate and 750-goal Richmond legend Jack Riewoldt to the mix, and we should be set for fireworks.
To be able to have him to come down and play a game for his home club, it's fantastic. It's fantastic for footy. A little bit disappointing that Mitch isn't playing.
But for the Bombers, it's just about having the right people in the right places to shut him down in front of what's expected to be a huge crowd at Blunston tomorrow night.
Got some good defenders down there. We got Oscar Shaw back last week. Tane Sookie's had a great start to the year. Josh McGuinness is down there. We're pretty happy with how our backline's going.
A side that knows Clarence's ferocity is North Hobart. After failing to kick a goal last week, the Demons have finished licking their wounds and are pleased to be striking Angus Norton off their extensive injury list from an Anzac Day concussion, returning for his 100th game.
Got the boys back out and did something a little bit different. We went up to the Domain. I guess the pleasing thing for me as coach is by the time we got back to the club on Monday night, boys had a smile back on their face.
They face the Tigers, who've also been down on their luck lately and are welcoming back a workhorse of their own in Jack Tompkinson.
It's no secret that Jack's a bit of a game changer for us. Marcus Gardner's been outstanding the last 2 weeks, but they work well off each other.
Hurricane Nathan Ellis is causing a storm up in India, taking command in his first game of the season for the Punjab Kings. After 2 months on the bench, taking 1 for 24 off his 4 overs, including 10 dot balls.
Showed what a class player is and probably showed why he's such a good bowler as well, and probably we missed him all season. We probably should have played him.
It helped the Kings to a 5-wicket upset win over the Rajasthan Royals. Jack jumpers Will Magnay and Jack McVeigh have been locked in for a Boomers training camp, which will decide the Olympic basketball team. The revised 17-man squad will be whittled down to the final 12 who'll make the trip to Paris. When Kingston and Corunna face off in the Tasmanian Netball League this weekend, they're playing for the Speak Up Stay Chatty Shield and the 7th annual face-off, a conversation starter around mental health. Corunna, who's yet to claim the shield from the Blues, feel they've learned some good lessons this season despite results not going their way, while Kingston are hitting their stride after getting a few players back from injury, climbing to 4th on the TNL ladder.
That's absolutely our goals from the start of the season, is to be solid within the top 4 and give ourselves the best opportunities to take it to finals.
A Tassie Super Netball team could be just around the corner. Netball Tasmania preparing its pitch for a possible league expansion.
We really believe in the proposition of Tasmania as a community that will rally behind a team. I think that's something that at the moment, the SSN would really love, is to come down and, from a player perspective, be treated like a rock star.
Conversations about a new team could happen within the next 12 months. Yeah, very exciting news, isn't it, Kim?
Yeah, well, the JJs did it. Thanks very much, Nick.
Good evening. Hobart, a high of 15 degrees today and 17 again over the northern centres. 18 was the maximum recorded on Flinders Island. Lyoweeney back on the board too with a -2. King Island 17 today. Low Head, St Helens and Friendly Beaches all 16. Grove, Bushy Park and Strawn 15 degrees. A few light showers developed over the west under that cloud. Some high cloud persisted over the south before increasing in the north and east later in the day. A cold front has cloud to our west. More cloud and an onshore flow over the eastern seaboard. Heavier cloud over the tropics and inland parts of the country. Tomorrow a cold front arrives and passes through. A high pressure ridge extends over the rest of the nation. The winds will tend west-southwesterly at 20 to 30 knots during the afternoon tomorrow after swinging around from the northwest. Swells at 6 metres in southern waters. We have a strong wind warning that's been issued for all Tasmanian coastal waters along with the southwest lakes, and a sheep grazier's warning for the southeast and a bushwalkers alert for the western and central plateau districts. Friday's forecast for Hobart, showery and 13. Same forecast for Huonville and Campania. Launceston a top tomorrow of 15 degrees with a shower or 2. Cloud clearing from Devonport, 15 the top and 14 the high for Georgetown. Burnie expecting a top of 14 and a possible shower. Showery for Strawn 13, 15 for Wynyard, and showers all down the east coast. 15 for St Helens, 14 for Swansea, and 1 degree cooler in Port Arthur. On Saturday, a cold day with partly cloudy weather for all the state. A late shower for Strawn. A tad warmer on Sunday with possible showers for King and Flinders Islands and easing from Strawn later. A light shower over the west and south on Monday. Fine for the remainder after morning frost and fog. Further north tomorrow and 28 degrees in Perth. A sunny 21 forecast for Adelaide. Showers increasing over Melbourne. Partly cloudy for Canberra and Sydney, and a shower or two in Brisbane. And right now here, Kim, the cloud is building up.
Looks like it. Now finally it could be time to dust off your best cowboy hats and boots for real hoedown in Hobart. The City Council today letting loose some line dancers to launch a new event for the city's winter calendar. It's for a good cause, with proceeds going to local animal shelters. And that is all we have time for tonight. Good night, everyone.